Hey Tom, thanks for taking some time out today to come out and shoot another video and do some more history with you.
My pleasure.
You know, you're like, in my mind, you're like living history here in St. Louis.
I don't know about that, but I like to talk.
Well, let's talk. We were just chatting about Bonnie Bramlett, and I remember we were at the same show at the Blues Museum.
Yes.
Tell me about playing with her. What was that like?
Well, started at the beginning, growing up in St. Louis, and I know we had already discussed this, but just kind of a recap. In St. Louis, Ike and Tina Turner were the thing. Ike was, if you were going to play guitar, you wanted to play like Ike. And there was this rumor around musicians and bands that there was this white chick who would put on skin makeup and actually sing with the Ikettes, if that could even be believed, you know. And it turns out it was Bonnie Bramlett, although I don't believe that was her name at the time. Bonnie, I don't know what her maiden name is, from Granite City.
Right.
And of course, then she went on to great fame and wrote fabulous songs and stuff. And I got the pleasure. She was living in Nashville, I believe, and came to St. Louis to do a show at the Sheldon with Billy Peake and Robbie Montgomery.
I was there for that. Sold the place out.
Yeah. And so that's when I first met her. And she was just the most gracious person in that, you know, we did a rehearsal at BB's, and it was Gus, Keith Robinson, and myself. And then I think was it Liddell? Maybe on keyboard or someone else. Forgive me, keyboard player.
I have pictures of all that. I'll have to dig them out.
Yeah, I know that he played in the church and was a fabulous player, and we all got along great. But, you know, getting to the rehearsal and Bonnie just put us all at ease, you know, made us feel relaxed. And it wasn't like she was like this macho gal trying to be one of the guys or anything, but she just made everybody feel comfortable, like, hey, here's what we're going to do, and, you know, I'll do this version of this, here's some charts, I'm going to change the key on this, you know, things like all professional stuff, but no attitude, or just a really nice person. And of course, then when she sang, it was like, yep, that's Bonnie Bramlett.
I was just watching some footage from like the 70s or 80s, and it was her and Delaney, the Friends, Bonnie and Friends, Delaney and Friends.
Yeah.
And she was young in this video. It's way back.
Yeah.
Took me way back.
Yeah. Oh, she can still sing. Well, as you attested to at the show we did at the Blues Museum.
Yeah.
It was, you know, I just wish her well, and if she wants to sing, we're ready to back you up or listen, you know, or even just tell stories, man. She's got stories, too.
Well, I think she'd moved back to Granite City.
In Granite City.
She's writing her memoirs, she told me.
I hope so, because what a story. I mean, like I said, there was this legend about this white chick that, you know, put makeup on it and sang with the Ikettes. I mean, I'm telling you, that was that was legendary. And so, I mean, I did do another show with her. I'm trying to remember exactly where it was, but we rehearsed in Granite City. I think it was in a art gallery, but she had, you know, coffee and donuts, sandwiches, drinks and stuff, just, I mean, first class all the way. She is the top tier, and America needs to celebrate her, and the world does, for all the places that she did and all that she accomplished, just by being Bonnie, you know, and singing and writing what she has. So that's a big highlight for me, you know. Another one was the show at the pageant, where I got to play behind so many people, but the one that really kind of sealed the deal for me is when I got to play guitar behind Ike Turner on stage at the pageant. And it was such an amazing experience for me, Dave, because
I think that was Guitar Masters, maybe, or I'm trying to remember.
Not sure what,
Because he was there. Benny Smith was part of that, I think.
yeah, and I'm trying to remember if Little Milton.
It was a big show at the pageant.
And was it a celebration for Oliver Sane?
It might have been that.
Passed?
It might have been that.
Because it was a big deal.
Yeah.
At the pageant, it was in the winter, and for me, growing up being an idolizer of Ike Turner, he was my hero. To stand face to face with him, and with our guitars looking each other in the eye, and he goes, "Hey, play this," and I'm praying, I hope this is something I can do. And he plays like this kind of Jimmy Reed bass line, and I go, okay, you know, and I played it right back at him, and he goes, okay, he goes, do this. And he muted the strings, and he goes, that'll make it sound cool. I go, you got it, you know, and that was our only interaction, personal like, but you know, that for me was a big deal. And then one of the saddest things happened, and it's just how life is. You know, you have this top of the mountain experience, and then you find out one of your mentors and friends just died. Tommy Bankhead had just died. And John May came and delivered the news backstage. And Tommy was another guy that, you know, I got to know and do shows with, and heard him play, and was able to, you know, see his style and how he reacted in certain ways.
Sure.
And just a nice, sweet guy with, you know, a great groove and great band. He was always one of the first blues bands I ever heard. Tommy and the Blues Eldorados down at...
Mike and Men's?
No, this goes back further. The first rock and roll nightclub down there at Manchester and Kings Highway, Rusty Springs. On Monday nights, they would play there.
All right. Tom, we were talking about Ike Turner, so let's talk about the Ikeettes and maybe a little Robbie Montgomery.
Sure. Well, that show I was talking about with Bonnie Bramlett and Billy Peake also had a segment where Robbie sang. And so that's probably the last show I did with her. But we've done shows where she would be part of the Ikeettes. Jackie Staten and Ruby Andrews, I believe the three of them would get together. I think I may have, on another interview, talked about them being out at my house and, you know, just sitting there playing with the guitar and their voices. But Robbie was such a really classy person, and I played for her at her restaurant down on Manchester, Sweetie Pies, and Johnnie and Francis Johnson and I used to eat at the first Sweetie Pies too quite a bit, which we always enjoyed. And so yeah, Robbie was just a special person and such a talent. And oddly enough, on the making of Electric Ladyland, Jimi Hendrix's fabulous double album, in the credits, she's mentioned.
Oh, wow.
And I
very
know,
cool.
Yeah, and I never did get to ask her about what that was all about. If it might have been pictures or comments, I don't know, but yeah. And Jackie Staten performed with her a lot. You know, I'm just blessed to be able to work with some of the my heroes, by people that I grew up, you know, looking up to, and then working with them was just wonderful. And they were such great singers, but entertainers too. They knew how to face an audience and get their attention and take them on a journey, like, you know.
Very cool.
And so yeah, working with Robbie was always a pleasure, and she was never had any problems, you know, with Robbie. She was on point, as they say. I miss you, Robbie. I love you.
Well, you also played a lot with some other legends. You know, Little Milton comes to mind because he and Oliver Sane went way back. In fact, Oliver was here because of Little Milton, I believe.
Yeah.
Invited him up for one weekend, and he never left, or something like that.
And they had a great piano player too, didn't they?
They sure did.
Fontella Bass.
They sure did. So, what was it like playing with Little Milton and in those days?
Well, I just really got to play with, I think, twice. But the first time was really, it's quite a story, in that he was going to play the pageant on Saturday, I think it was. On Tuesday, I get a call from John May saying, hey, the band that was going to back up Little Milton, they don't want to do it. Can you put a band together to back Little Milton up at the pageant? I said, I'll call you back. And this is before texts and all that stuff. So called Keith Robinson, called Matt Murdock, and I called Mike Harris to play guitar, because I thought I could control the band better from playing bass than on guitar. And then I think, oh boy, I know John Wolfe was there on trombone, but we had a great horn section. And so John sent me the material, and I went to work on writing out charts. And like, I'm not an educated musician, so I don't write standard notation like a person with a degree in music would. But they were good enough that, and we did the show. And let me tell you also that I came down with one of the worst flus I've ever had in my life. I mean, I was really, really sick and had to play the gig, you know. But I remember Milton came out, we're hitting the lick, you know, and he's doing his moves and his stuff. We go right into the next song, you know. And about the fourth song, Milton turns around to the band and says, you did your homework. Which, you know, that's like a $500 tip. You know, that means more than money. And so the show went great. He was great. I love Little Milton, and you know, he played guitar great. It was a great show, and I was like, oh, thank God it's over now, you know. And people at the pageant, and I understand, they want to go home, but you know, usually when you're done playing, you're whooped, and you might just want to stand there a minute and catch your breath or talk with somebody. And they're like going, hey, y'all, we got to get out of here, you know?
Yeah.
And except to Little Milton. And the Star Green Room is right on the side of the stage. Mm-hmm. The other ones you got to go up steps to get to. Well, so Milton's standing there, and he's and he points at me and goes, come on, you can come into room 2. And so he was inviting me into his dressing room, you know, after hours, and I was so sick. I was going to go, I'm too sick. But I said, Tom, you'll never get another chance like this. So I made the right decision and went in and hung with the cats, you know, and he had some of his friends that he knew from when he used to live here and stuff. They showed up, and they're all back there telling stories and stuff, you know, and it was just so real, and Milton was just, you know, these people didn't get to be famous stars by being jerks.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's stories about them and their temperaments and all those things, but in general, I have to say I've always been treated very nicely. There's a couple of people that were, but Little Milton invited me to the, you know, into the dressing room after hours, and I went, and it was worth it to hear the stories and just see the camaraderie and to think about all the years gone by up to that point, and the music and the trails and the places he's played and done, and then to sit there in the dressing room with him after a show, like it's always been this way. There was no I'm the king and you guys are the court. Everybody was just telling stories and jokes and laughing and having a good time. And well, and then Dave, within that was again in the winter, and I believe that spring or summer he passed.
Yeah.
They're leaving us, you know.
I know. Well, you know, speaking of people that have passed, Henry Townsend was a dear friend to all of us.
Yes.
And I had the pleasure of seeing him up in Chicago at the Blues Festival a long time ago. He was in his 90s and at that time, and he was part of a show called The Masters, I think. And one of those other masters was a guy named Homesick James.
Oh.
Tell me a little bit about your experience with Homesick.
Now there was a character, and just, I don't know how to say it, but it took me at least 2 days to get over what had transpired in front of my very eyes. So I was going to play I played bass, and what was his name? Forgive me for not being able to remember the man's name. Kenny Lawrence on drums. But so Homesick is there, and he's in a D tuning. That means he tunes all 6 strings to where if you just strum them without putting your hands down, there's a D chord. Elmore James, his nephew, plays like that too. And so we're playing along, and I'm following him. And in most blues, there's 3 chords. So you find the one that he's on, and you stay there, boom, 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 boom. And then you know it's going to be one of the 2 that his hand is going to go to. And if you know the guitar neck, you can guess by which way his hand is moving what chord is going to be played. And we did about 3 songs, and I was right on him, and Kenny was playing the drums, and we were cooking with him, you know. But it was almost like he didn't like that. He looks at me and goes, "Can't you play a pattern, boy?" And we're playing a song, you know, and he goes, "Can't you play a pattern, boy?" And I go, "Oh yeah." And the reason I wasn't playing a pattern, because if the chords change in the middle of the pattern, you get lost. So I'm hanging with the one note. And so as soon as he says play a pattern, I start to play it. And then he switches chords right in the middle of the pattern and looks at me like, "See, you don't know what you're doing." And I'm going, "Okay, I see where this is going," you know. So then on the break, and during our set, I have to tell you, I heard him play 3 different styles of guitar playing. And I mean, not just a lick here and there. It was like he changed into another person. Okay. Early B.B. King, when he was more jazzier. not saying that Homesick played jazz, but it was kind of the phrasing was freer. It wasn't like the Delta blues or anything. It had a freer, jazzier feel to it. I heard him play that. I heard him play Elmore James to the T. And then, oddly enough, I heard him play Albert King like nobody else. You would close your eyes, you think it was Albert. And I'm going, whoa, he didn't change the tuning on his guitar for any of this, or change guitars. So he's doing it all with this D tuning. And I was just amazed.
Yeah.
And so I go over to talk to him, and I said, man, Mr. James, you play those Albert King licks great. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, Albert played drums in my band. Like, he's yelling at me like, what do you mean? Albert played. And then I remembered, yes, Homesick's from Gary, Indiana, and Albert King used to live in Gary, Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew that Albert started as a drummer. The rumor is that he played drums on a couple of Jimmy Reed's songs. Then I said, and man, your slide playing is just like Elmore's. And I knew that was his nephew. And he goes, what do you mean, boy? He goes, I was the one that put the pickup on his guitar for him. And I went, oh my gosh, I had both feet in my mouth securely there. But he was just that kind of a cantankerous guy, And for a while during that time, I was playing with Snooky Pryor. When Snooky would play in the Midwest, I'd get the call to go out with him and his son Ski and Kenny Lawrence, and I would. But so we're down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Snooky was just another one of these guys. They just don't make them like that anymore. And he would, after our gig or whatever, he would love to sit in his hotel room and just stay up and tell stories. Mm-hmm. And I said, Snooky, now I know you recorded with Homesick and you guys knew each other for a long time. I said, man, he's the hardest guy to follow. I tried to follow him, and he laughed. He goes, yeah, he's like a grease pig at a county fair. I always remember that saying, like a grease pig at a county fair. And Henry Townsend, who, I just have so much love for too. Henry, I was telling Henry about, man, I was trying to follow him and everything, and he kept changing on me like he didn't want me to follow him. And he laughed and he goes, how old did he tell you he was? And I said, I think he said he was like 89 or something. And he said he was 94 the last time he was in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
So apparently he was kind of a storyteller, just a real pistol of a guy. But also that night, I got to tell this story, and I'll have to try and remember the young man's name. The great jazz guitar player who plays with both hands on the neck of the guitar. I should be able to tell you his name, but I can't. Maybe some of you listening will know who I mean. He's a younger guy, and he plays jazz, and he was playing in St. Louis that night. And in the audience were some people that were blues purists, okay? They were there to hear Homesick James. They knew who he was. They had his records. They were used to him not playing the 12-bar blues precisely.
Right.
So that didn't offend him. There was another part of the audience that was blues lovers, but they're more B.B. King, Albert King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Thunderbirds type blues lovers. And they're complaining, who is this old guy? He can't even keep his place in the music and stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, this is terrible, Well, and I have to mention this too, that night, on our break, then when we got back up, Buzzy Martin was there, the late great dear Buzzy Martin, and he got up and played magnificently as always and did a great job. But then Homesick's gonna get up, and I want to call this boy, I call him boy because he's young man, Jeremy, but I can't remember his name, but he's such a great jazz doing this tapping thing. Originally he was a piano player, so he just applied it to guitar. Amazing. He's there in the audience. Okay, he came from a show at the Bistro down to BB's, and it's late at night, pre-COVID, so it's 1:30 or 2, and he's in the audience and he wants to set in with Homesick, and I'm thinking, oh no, how is this gonna work? Is this? And he got up and played, did not do any tapping. He was playing a Les Paul guitar, and he played straight blues. He knew who Homesick was, and he was there at the master's feet learning. And I'll never forget that, because he could have blown the room away with all that. He could have done it. He's a fantastic musician, but he realized who Homesick James was, and he was there to learn and pay homage to him. What a wonderful thing,
Let me segue, because you were talking about what a pistol he was. Let me just segue to one more guy I want to talk about with you. He was a bit of a pistol too. Arthur Williams.
Oh, yeah.
I had the pleasure of taking him down to Mississippi one year for the Juke Joint Festival, and we went by all these old juke joints. He used to run moonshine for when he was in his youth.
Yeah.
He wanted to do like a juke joint journey, and so that's what I called it. I wrote the whole story up on my website.
That's a slice of life there, Dave.
Oh, yeah. He was history, too.
Oh, absolutely.
What was it like to hang out and play with him?
It could be hard at times, but I first met him when we were doing the harp attacks, and it was at the first harp attack. And so basically what we did was call a rehearsal and got all the participants to come and run their show with the backup band, which was Gus, Jimmy Miller, and Johnnie Johnson.
Nice.
Oh, boy. I still have the poster for that. And Dr. Dave, I can't say his last name now. It's hard getting old here. I should have prepared myself better for this conversation, so I look up the names. But Arthur was one of them, and so we did 3 or 4 people. Keith Doder was there, Rib Tip, Little Walter Westbrook, Doc Terry, and then comes Arthur Williams, and so I go, okay, what do you want to do, Arthur? And I just met him, same way with Little Walter Westbrook too. I had just met him for the first time. They're all nice, and what we're trying to do is get what key you're going to be in and what feel. How is it a shuffle? Is it a swamp thing? Is it kind of a Junior Walker?
Right.
So that's all, and we write it down and then go to the next one. And so Arthur goes, summertime. And I went, whoa. Summertime? He goes, yeah, what key? I think he said A minor. And that was the first harp player I ever heard playing a minor key. I mean, not a lot of harp players in blues. In jazz, they do it all the time. But in blues, you normally don't. I know the chromatic harp is good for the key of D minor. Snooky would use the chromatic harp, and we would do a song or two in D minor. But Arthur just had a regular, I guess, Marine band or something like that harp, and he could play in a minor, bend those notes to make Summertime come out in a minor key. And I always said, and I told him that at the end of the rehearsal, I said, Arthur, I heard all these harp players today, man, and you're the only one that can play in a minor key. And he goes, oh, yeah, man, I've been doing it a while, and stuff. And we became friends ever since then and did a lot of shows together, And
well, he was known for his whistle. He was,
yeah, oh, yeah.
Hear him coming. Well, I don't know if you remember, word got out one day that Arthur had passed away. And so a bunch of us gathered at BB's and we're
I was
commiserating.
playing down the street at the Oyster Bar.
And we hear a whistle. And somebody's whistling just like Arthur. And then the door opens to BB's and Arthur walks in BB's.
He should have been dead.
Run. So it was just, we went from like sorrow to joy.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that's not true. I'm not dead yet.
Yeah, he knew nothing about it. The poor, and I remember Jeremy Siegelmoss. We were getting the STLBlues band on Monday night was getting ready to play, and Jeremy was down there, and he goes, "Hey, you guys here?" And we go, "What? What?" And he goes, "Arthur passed." What? Oh no! And we all got a drink and toasted him, feeling blue and everything. By the time we get to break, Jeremy's back down there going, "Hey, he's alive."
Too funny.
It was, and he was. I mean, no one's perfect, but Arthur had a definitely was a rascal.
Yes, he was. Well, Tom, I want to thank you again for sitting down and sharing some great history with us.
Always a pleasure, Dave.
Where can people find you out playing today, these days?
Well, I'm like a caveman. I still live like I did in 1972 or whatever. I do have a phone, but I don't really advertise, but like this Saturday, I'll be playing at Hammerstones with Rich McDonough.
Nice.
Then Sunday, I'll be playing with Paul Niehaus in Belleville somewhere. Then I play with Ivis John at the Cecil Whitaker's, and then at the Blues Festival.
Well, we'll see you there at the Soulard Fest.
Yeah. Where am I Saturday? I know Sunday I'm with Rich McDonough on the closing of the Blues Festival.
Yeah.
But with Ivis John, Rich McDonough, Paul Niehaus, Everett Dean. I work with John Erblick, Johnny Diamond sometimes. Sharon Foner and I do a duo sometimes.
We saw you at the Blues Museum do that. That was awesome.
Yeah. It's I love playing with Sharon because she does that old style of blues that not many people do anymore. And then she'll do a crazy mashup of Jimi Hendrix and Elmore James or something.
Love Sharon.
Yes, she's always got something in her pocketbook that is unexpected.
I know. Well, thanks again, Tom, and we're going to see you. If nothing else, we'll see you at the Soulard Blues and Roots Fest.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to that, Dave.
All right.